Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel. Today with my monthly wrap-up. This is for November 2023. And when I was looking back on everything that I read this month, I was very surprised at how productive I was. I read a lot this month, not just prose, but also graphic novels. I caught up on a lot, which I'm really happy about. Something that helped with this is the fact that a lot of these books are pretty short. I've kind of sort of started doing the read what you own challenge that like Criminale and Reading This Life are doing, where it's as it sounds, before you buy any more new books, read what's sitting on your shelves unread now. So I have about 20 books. Okay, so not including the Buffy the Vampire Slayer pile, I've got about 20 books that are unread that I want to get through. The Buffy books I'm not counting because I want to sprinkle those in just like whenever I'm in the mood for them. So they're not part of that challenge. So because of that, I have a lot of like shorter books that just need to be read, with some longer ones sprinkled in. And because I'm doing this challenge, I was able to get through a lot this month. I felt very motivated too. And the first book I'll talk about is actually the only book that I don't have a physical copy of, and that's Audition by Ryu Murakami. I included this in a recent video I did where I talked about pretty good books that I read this year. This is a famous J-horror book that inspired the movie of the same name. This is from that J-horror boom in the 90s where it became really popular in the US. And Audition is about a widower who holds a literal audition for a fake movie where what he's really doing is auditioning women to be his next wife. Sounds like a wacky rom-com. Turns out to be a horror. And it was pretty good. I enjoyed that one. I liked it more than Ring by Koji Suzuki. Thought it was a little bit tighter, a little bit more tense, and just overall pretty enjoyable. So I recommend Audition. Next up, I could not believe that I read this month. I felt like I read this so long ago, but it's a Cibola Burn by James S.A. Corey. This is the fourth book in the Expanse, which I really am I want to finish it. I have 5 books left, plus novellas. And I love this series so much. It's so fantastic, but I keep dragging my heels on this one. But this was another excellent entry in the series. In this one, there is a dispute. A bunch of settlers have made their home on a new planet that had not been claimed by anybody yet. But now it has been claimed. A company has legal rights to the planet to, farm it or whatever they're going to do. And so they come and they're trying to basically get the colonists out of there. And so the crew of the Rocinante, James Holden and his crew, are brought in as mediators to try to bring a friendly end to the conflict. It doesn't go well or easily at all, and that's the fun. It's a really great book. It has a lot of interesting things to say about colonization, and it just continues to impress me. Really, really dig the Expanse. Next up, one of those Buffy books that I talked about. This is Coyote Moon. This is the 3rd Buffy novel. It's a young adult novel, and it's okay. I'm really, really looking forward to getting to like the really good stuff, like the full length novels that are more for a mature audience. Because this stuff, it's fine, but it's not like too impressive. This one's by John Vornholt. In this one, a carnival comes to town, and at the same time, there's a pack of coyotes that have also come to town, and those coyotes are being menacing. And there's a connection there, and Buffy finds it. Her friends Xander and Willow start dating people from the carnival, and they're in danger because of it. it's pretty light stuff. It's very much in line with like a season 1 Buffy episode. So pretty good, not great. Um, Next up that I read, Challengers of the Unknown by Ron Goulart. I had a lot of fun with this one. I was able to actually read this in a single sitting. I sat down on the couch, got real comfy and cozy with my partner. We sat there for 3 hours. I banged this thing out from cover to cover in that time. And this was another fun one. This is based on the Jack Kirby comics, or rather, the characters created by Jack Kirby, but it's not a Kirby story. I have a full review of this up on the channel, so I'll leave you to discover that video if you want more information. But I did enjoy this one quite a bit. Next up, my first Mack Bolan adventure, Executioner number 7, Nightmare in New York by Don Pendleton. I'm a newbie to men's adventure as a genre, and I'm still not sure if it's the genre for me. I've read some lighter fare in that genre before. I've read like some Edgar Rice Burroughs. If you consider like the 87th Precinct men's adventure, I mean barely, maybe, but this is straight up like I think this is the epitome of the genre, where you have one man who is seemingly invincible and who's incredible at everything, waging a one-man war against the mafia in this case. And so this is just the book. He arrives in New York and he immediately becomes embroiled in the New York mafia, and trying to take them down. And he just does it piecemeal, one by one, knocking over all their operations, killing like the high-ranking members of it. It's exactly what you kind of expect it to be. Women are unbelievably gorgeous and immediately attracted to Mack Bolan. So it's the ultimate male fantasy, and it's pretty good for that. I still don't know if it's the genre that appeals to me the most. But it was fun, and I would definitely read more Executioner books. All right, next up, mentioned it briefly just a moment ago. Let's Hear It for the Deaf Man by Ed McBain, an 87th Precinct mystery. I'm really enjoying these 87th Precinct books. Even though is this only my second one? Yeah, this is only my second one, but I'm really enjoying them so far, and I have more on my shelf that I'm going to get to for this Read What You Own challenge. They're just fun. It's just fun little crime stories, and they're super short, and they give you a lot. They give you a lot for your dollar, because there's 3 separate like cases that are going on in this short little book here, and they don't like connect. It's not like one of those types of mysteries where in the end, it all matters. It's just this precinct of the police. They've got cases every day, and so we would spend time with this one, spend time with this one, spend time with this one. In this case, the deaf man is an established character who I'm not familiar with, but he's like an established villain, and he is planning a bank heist, and he's sending clues to the police officers because to him it's fun to have them try to figure it out. Of course, this leads to his downfall, as it always does. Like, why have a gimmick like that where you're giving away your secrets? But there's also a murder mystery in here, as well as a cat burglar. And it's all just really well written and fun and tense and funny. These are great. Love these. Next up, I started reading this last month, and I was just like, I would keep it by my bedside, and if I was in the mood, I would read like one story a night. That's Great Ghost Stories. This is selected and arranged by John Grafton. So yeah, it's just collected ghost stories from, let's see, the earliest one is 1864, and it goes up to 1912. So really old stuff. Some highlights in here are To Be Taken with a Grain of Salt by Charles Dickens. I really enjoyed The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs, which I've always wanted to know where the monkey's paw came from, because it's such like a thing in pop culture, but I never knew the origin of it, so I was able to get it here. And what else? There's a Bram Stoker in here, The Judge's House by Bram Stoker. So pretty cool, neat little book. You know, not much else to say about it. I wouldn't say they were all great ghost stories. A lot of them were just okay ghost stories, but fun time. I enjoyed it. And now, a rarity, a book that I really did not enjoy and that I actually finished, The Forbidden Zone by Whitley Strieber. This was a huge letdown because I read The Wolfen by Strieber earlier this year, and I've talked about it in videos before. That's a book that I loved, and this book stunk. This book was stink from the very beginning. Um, I cannot give you a synopsis of this book because it's so convoluted and stupid. I don't know where to begin. Um, I I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I did not like it. This is a book. The only thing I could say about it is that this is a good book to read if you want an example of like a small town done poorly. Because I talk about how Stephen King is great at writing small towns and really filling it with life, introducing you to all the characters, making them feel real. This book, I think, tries to do that and just fails spectacularly. Like, I felt no connection to anybody in this book, even though there are some like decent ideas in here. This was just nothing. I got nothing out of this book. I should have just DNF'd it, but it read sort of quickly, even though at times it really did drag. But goddamn, that was such a letdown. The Forbidden Zone by Whitley Strieber. And finally, the last book that I finished this month, I have one more that I'm currently reading, House of Shadows by Darcy Coates. This was another one that I included in that pretty good book video. Very much a kind of Jane Eyre type haunted house story. Young woman who is kind of, in this case, she marries the lord of like an estate because she has to, because her family's going to be destitute. She moves in. The house is super haunted. The family that lives there is super weird and cold. And this is her figuring out, how to stop the haunting, how to overcome the weird family, and also a really solid romance between her and her husband. It ends up being, this book is a lot heavy on the romance, a lot more so than I thought it would be. And it worked really well. I enjoyed this book. It was pretty good. And the book that I just started reading, it's currently the 27th when I'm recording this video, so I'll probably finish this by the end of the month. That's Vertigo by Pierre Boileau and Thomas Narsajak. Sorry, I did not pronounce those correctly. But this is the book that Alfred Hitchcock based the movie Vertigo on. It was originally called The Living and the Dead. This is a reprint, I guess, after the movie came out, where they're capitalizing on the name of the movie. So don't have anything to say about it right now. I literally just started it, but I should be done with that. Maybe I'll have a review of it on the channel. We'll see how it actually is. All right, now moving into graphic novels, because that was a lot of novels. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my god. Yeah, but a lot of them, they were really short, so that's understandable. On top of that, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 graphic novels. The first one I'll talk about is Ed the Happy Clown by Chester Brown. Chester Brown is an alternative comics creator. This trade paperback collects the Ed the Happy Clown stories, which were originally serialized in his comic book Yummy Fur. Chester Brown, I would say, is very much a subversive comic creator. These comics are weird, very strange. To give you an idea, one of them is called, hold on, what's it called? I think it's The Man Who Couldn't Stop. Yeah, it's called The Man Who Couldn't Stop, and it's about a man who's pooping and he can't stop pooping. Like it just keeps coming out. And then it turns out that his butt is a portal that is it's the exit from another universe where that universe doesn't have like a plumbing system. So they're putting all of their poop into this like portal and it's just coming out of this guy. I swear this is good. It's just very strange. It's very subversive and weird, but the cartooning is great. It's shocking and disturbing, and I don't know who I could recommend it to unless you are also a weirdo like like myself. So that's Ed the Happy Clown. Something very different, but also from that alternative comics crowd is It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken by Seth. But this is kind of what I got the sense of, maybe like a memoir by Seth about him discovering this cartoonist who only had like one piece in the New Yorker like decades earlier. He collects old magazines. He finds a cartoon that he really connects to, but he doesn't know anything about the cartoonist, and he couldn't find, and he can't find more of it. He didn't do a lot for the New Yorker, and so he just becomes obsessed with tracking down any information he could find about him, his real name, where he lived, where he's from, what he did for a career. And it's just really it's a really nice book. It's really great. Again, great cartooning by Seth. It very much reminds me of like Adrian Tomina, who did Optic Nerve. It's great, and this was my first Seth book. I definitely want to read more by him. But very very low key, nowhere near as insane as the Chester Brown book. So maybe that's more your speed if you're looking for some alternative comics. Next up, The Building by Will Eisner. I actually did a complete video breakdown of this book, and I highly recommend checking that out. I love this book. I thought this was absolutely terrific. It's just about the life and death of a building in the city, and the life stories of people who had a connection to the building in some way. Please check out that video I made that breaks this down. I really, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was superb. And while we're on that topic of just like great graphic novels, talk about Ducks by Kate Beaton. Kate Beaton is probably most known for her webcomic Hark a Vagrant, which is pretty funny. But this is another memoir. This is the story of the 2 years that she spent working in the Canadian oil sands after college, just as a way to pay off her student loans. This is a beautiful book about loneliness and solitude. It's got themes of environmentalism and just it contributes to that conversation, but it's also a devastating look at sexual assault and sexual misconduct in workplaces like this that are heavily male dominated. It's a tough read at times because of that. I don't know what I was expecting with like a title like Ducks, and I didn't know what this book was really. I just heard that it was good, so I went into it thinking like this is going to be like a fun story about how like she wins people over as the woman on the job site, and then I very quickly I'm like, oh no, this is reality, and she's constantly the victim of misogyny and worse. But this was a great book and probably going to end up on my list of top graphic novels of the year. And finally, another Will Eisner. This is The Spirit Archive, Volume 20. This is collecting the weekly Spirit comic strips from January to June of 1950, all by Will Eisner, at least in part. I know that there's some assists from other people, but this is super fun. I haven't revisited or gone to like look back at old comic strips before, even though they're so important to comics history. This is my first really foray into that, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really great book. Will Eisner, I can truly see a lot of influence that he had on modern comics. I think Alan Moore was very influenced by him. I talk about it in my building video about like Rick Veitch, Stephen Bissett, very much clearly influenced by The Spirit and by Will Eisner. So these are fun. If you could find these archive books of Spirit stuff, highly recommended. That was a lot of fun. And that's it. I finally reached the end of all of the books that I read in November. It was a really good month. Let me know if you've read anything that I talked about. Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments below. And let me know what you read in November as well. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.